Welcome to Kleppers Corner Today in History, where we dive deep into the timeline's greatest hits. And by greatest, I mean the stuff humanity either barely survived or immediately repeated. Today is October 24th, a date that somehow crams together the founding of the United Nations, the biggest financial faceplant in modern history, the birth of the international system, and the death of several people who literally changed the world. Basically, October 24th is like history's group chat, chaotic, important, and probably muted by God for sanity. Segment 1, the dawn of a new world order, the founding of the United Nations, 1945. On October 24th, 1945, the world said, let's try peace again, and birthed the United Nations, a sort of cosmic do-over after humanity's last team project, the League of Nations, flunked so hard it practically started World War II as extra credit. The UN was the 20th century's boldest group project, 50 nations deciding they could somehow stop war by writing it down on fancy paper. The big players, Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin, hammered out the details at Dumbarton Oaks, which sounds like a luxury rehab for failed empires. The result was a structure that looked noble on paper. One vote for every nation, unless you're in the Security Council, in which case, congrats, you get the power to veto world peace like it's a bad Netflix show. And that's the paradox, right? The UN's charter says all nations are equal, but some nations are more equal than others. It's like Animal Farm with better catering. Yet somehow this messy bureaucratic organism outlived its creators. It's seen wars, genocides, moon landings, and Twitter. For all its failures, it's still humanity's best attempt to keep the apocalypse on hold while we argue over who should chair the next subcommittee. Segment 2, the precipice of collapse, Black Thursday and the crash of 1929. October 24th, 1929, the day the music died. Unless you count the panic screams of stockbrokers. Black Thursday wasn't just a crash, it was a demolition derby for capitalism. After a decade of wild speculation and buying stocks on margin, translation, I'll pay later, if ever, the bill came due. The ticker tape machines literally couldn't keep up. Imagine a market meltdown so bad your technology just gives up and says, you know what? I'm going to lunch. Bakers tried to save the day by tossing money into the pit like confetti, and for a few hours it worked. But the next Monday and Tuesday made sure everyone got the memo. Confidence had left the building. The crash wiped out fortunes, families, and faith in the system. It sparked the Great Depression, birthed federal safety nets, and inspired enough back in my day stories to fill every Thanksgiving dinner for a century. It's almost poetic. Wall Street discovered that unregulated greed eventually comes with a receipt. Segment 3, the Westphalian legacy, the birth of sovereignty, 1648. Before the UN tried to create global order, the Peace of Westphalia on October 24, 1648, decided to invent the rules for world order. It ended the 30 Years' War, a conflict so long and confusing that even historians use flowcharts. Out of that chaos, Europe said, maybe we should stop meddling in each other's kingdoms, which became the doctrine of sovereignty. This treaty is basically the software update that made the nation-state work. Each state got its own borders, its own ruler, and the right to say, mind your own business. Fast forward 297 years, and we've got the United Nations, whose whole job is to politely tell countries to stop invading each other while secretly scheduling the next one. The Peace of Westphalia is the grandparent of the UN, but like most grandparents, it'd be horrified by how the grandkids turned out. Segment 4, the brink of annihilation, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. October 24th, 1962, the day the world held its collective breath and hoped nobody sneezed near a red button. The U.S. blockade of Cuba officially began, and Soviet ships kept steaming toward the line. It was humanity's closest brush with nuclear whoops. This was the ultimate Cold War staring contest, Kennedy versus Khrushchev, each daring the other to blink. The hotline between Moscow and Washington didn't exist yet, because apparently the idea of calling to say, hey, you planning to end civilization today, hadn't occurred to anyone. Thankfully, the Soviets blinked first. The missiles left, and the UN got to play peace referee, proving that sometimes bureaucracy is better than fallout. The world learned an important lesson. Diplomacy might be slow, but nuclear winter lasts forever. Segment 5, social upheaval, the Icelandic women's strike, 1975. October 24th, 1975. Nearly every woman in Iceland went on strike. They didn't go to work, didn't cook, didn't clean, didn't care. The entire country stopped functioning. It turns out when half the population hits pause, the system freezes faster than your Wi-Fi during a Zoom call. This strike was a turning point. 5 years later, Iceland elected the world's first female president, proving that change doesn't always come from the top. It sometimes comes from a kitchen that's defiantly empty. It's a great reminder. Sometimes history isn't made by generals or politicians, but by women collectively saying, yeah, no, you handle it. Segment 6, technological revolutions, from telegraphs to space photos. On October 24, 1861, the first transcontinental telegraph connected the United States from coast to coast, instantly killing the Pony Express. That's technological progress in a nutshell. One man's miracle is another man's pink slip. Then, exactly 85 years later, in 1946, a V-2 rocket launched from New Mexico snapped the first photo of Earth from space. A grainy black and white curve of our planet. Proof we're all just one fragile ball of chaos in the void. Imagine being the first guy to see that and realizing your entire species is basically a zit on a marble. And because humans can't resist irony, that same date, October 24th, 2003, also saw the Concorde's last flight, ending supersonic passenger travel. The lesson? Technology doesn't always go forward. Sometimes it retires with a commemorative t-shirt and a carbon offset.
Segment 7,
The lives that shaped it, from Tycho to Drake. Let's talk birthdays and farewells. On October 24th, 1632, Antony van Leeuwenhoek was born. A man so curious, he invented microbiology just to see what was living in his spit. 2 centuries later, Tycho Brahe died, probably still arguing with Kepler about whose math was hotter. Rosa Parks passed on this day in 2005, having proved one person sitting down can move an entire nation forward. Jackie Robinson died the same day in 1972. A man who showed courage doesn't need a bat, it just needs resolve. And then there's Drake, born October 24th, 1986. From Degrassi to dominating the Billboard charts, he's proof that emotional vulnerability can be a global export. Every generation gets its symbol. Tycho had the stars, Rosa had the bus, Drake has Spotify. In conclusion, so what do we make of October 24th? It's a day that can't decide if it wants to build or destroy. On one hand, the United Nations promises peace. On the other, the 1929 crash reminds us humans can panic faster than any algorithm. It's the eternal dance between order and entropy, idealism and greed, unity and self-interest. Every event, from the Peace of Westphalia to Rosa Parks' quiet rebellion, tells the same story. Civilization is just a series of group projects, each hoping the next generation reads the instructions. And if history teaches anything, it's that progress is messy, cyclical, and sometimes set to a Drake beat. October 24th doesn't just mark moments. It mirrors humanity itself. Brilliant, chaotic, stubborn, and still, somehow, trying to get it right. That's Kleppers Corner, Today in History. October 24th, the day humanity built peace, broke banks, rewired the planet, and took its first selfie from space.